Hello everyone, I hope you're having a wonderful day. Today, we're going to explore the morning. Tuna wakes up in a beautiful new house, but suddenly feels an aching emptiness. And with one request, she and Alex rebuild a chicken coop and pig pen in a single day, bringing the garden back to life and changing Henry's future forever. If you enjoy this story, don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the next videos. The morning light slipped through the thin curtains and painted faint gold lines across the wooden floor. Tuna opened her eyes and lay still for a moment, breathing slowly, letting the quiet settle around her. The new house was spacious, clean, and bright, exactly what Alex had worked so hard to build, yet something inside her felt restless. Outside the window, the garden looked too still, bare soil, tidy paths, and a silence that didn't match the size of the land. Then a memory rushed in like a soft wind, the sharp crow of roosters at dawn, pigs grunting in a pen that smelled of straw and damp earth, hens clucking as they chased scattered grain. Those sounds had once been the pulse of her childhood, the background music of every morning. Tuna sat up, hair tangled over her shoulders, and stepped onto the balcony. The early breeze carried a faint scent of dew-soaked grass. She rested her hands on the railing and stared down at the patch of ground where the chicken coop and pig pen used to be. In her mind, she could still see the worn boards, the feeding trough, the little footprints in the mud. A quiet ache tightened in her chest. It wasn't only nostalgia, it was the feeling that something living had been removed. She didn't want to chase the past, but she wanted the present to breathe again. If the garden felt hollow, she would fill it. She turned back inside, already rehearsing the words she needed to say. In the living room, Alex sat near the window, gently rocking Henry in his arms. The baby was snug and calm, wide eyes fixed upward as if he was studying his father's face. Henry's tiny fingers curled around Alex's thumb, and Alex smiled down at him like he had all the time in the world. When Alex looked up and saw Tuna, his expression softened. "Morning," he said. Tuna sat beside him and watched Henry's steady breathing for a moment. It made her think again. Henry deserved more than quiet walls and polished floors. He deserved mornings that felt alive. "Alex," she began, voice soft but firm, "I've been thinking." Alex shifted instantly into full attention. "Tell me." Tuna glanced toward the garden. "When I was little, we always had a chicken coop and a pig pen. I miss it so much." She let out a small breath, almost embarrassed by the emotion in her voice. "This place is beautiful, but sometimes it feels empty, like it's missing its heartbeat." Alex didn't interrupt. He just nodded slowly, eyes warm. "I want Henry to grow up hearing roosters at dawn," Tuna continued, the words coming faster once she started. "I want him to watch pigs in their pen, to see hens pecking the ground. Can we build them again? Together?" For a second, she held her breath, afraid she was asking for too much. But Alex's smile deepened, not amused, just understanding. He carefully laid Henry in the bassinet nearby, smoothing the blanket once, then reached for Tuna's hand. "Of course," he said. "If it matters to you, it matters to me. Let's start today." The weight in Tuna's chest lifted so suddenly she almost laughed. Her longing didn't feel lonely anymore. It felt shared. Alex lifted Henry again, resting him against his shoulder. "We'll plan it quickly," he said. "Where do you want them?" Tuna grabbed a notebook and pencil, flipping to a clean page. "I remember the layout," she said, already smiling. Outside, the sunlight felt brighter than it had minutes ago. Tuna walked the garden slowly, pointing out spots here for the coop to catch morning sun, there for the pig pen with enough shade. Alex asked practical questions, and Tuna felt something shift inside her, like she was allowed to want things again, not just survive. They gathered materials from the shed and the storage corner. Lumber, nails, a measuring tape, a level, a bucket of screws. The air smelled of soil warmed by sun, and the clean scent of new wood. They started with the chicken coop frame. Alex held the plank steady while Tuna measured and marked. "Straight?" she asked. "Almost," Alex said, adjusting it a little. Now it's perfect. Tuna laughed under her breath. You're acting like you built coops your whole life. I'm learning, Alex said, and the grin in his voice made her smile. Hammer strikes began to fill the yard, steady, rhythmic, comforting. Tuna felt sweat gather at her hairline, but she didn't mind. Her hands moved with quick purpose, measuring, marking, tightening. Every plank that locked into place felt like a piece of her childhood returning, not as a memory, but as something real. Henry lay on a soft green blanket a few meters away under a bit of shade, kicking his legs and waving tiny fists. Every so often, Alex glanced over, then back at the frame, like he was building not only pens, but a whole kind of life for his son. Keep going, Alex said after a while, wiping his temple. We're close. Tuna nodded, heart racing. I can see it, she said. It's really happening. They added small details that made Tuna's eyes brighten nesting boxes inside the coop, a simple latch that wouldn't pop open, a narrow ramp for the hens to climb up at night. Alex insisted on sanding the rough edges so nobody would get scratched, and Tuna teased him for being too careful. Then they moved to the pig pen, using thicker boards and reinforcing the corners. Alex insisted on making it sturdy. Pigs push, he said. They'll test the fence. Tuna rolled her eyes, amused. Okay, Mr. Pig Expert. Alex gave her a look. Mr. Safety Expert. By late morning, the structures were standing, a sloped roof beginning to take shape over the chicken coop, a solid wooden fence enclosing the pig pen behind it. The yard already looked different, less empty, less silent, more alive. Tuna dipped a brush into paint and covered the coop door in slow, careful strokes, like she was tracing her childhood into the wood. She even hung a tiny wooden ornament above the entrance, nothing fancy, just a small carved shape that made Henry stare in wonder when it swung gently in the breeze. Alex sat on a flat stone nearby for a moment, elbows on his knees, watching her with quiet tenderness. You're happy, he said softly. Tuna didn't look up, but her voice carried a smile. I feel like I can breathe again, she admitted. I didn't realize how much I missed this until I woke up and it was gone. Alex stood, walked behind her, and set a gentle hand on her shoulder. Then we'll keep building, he said, piece by piece. When the last coat was done, they sat together on the stone, tired in their bodies but light in their hearts. Henry stared at them with wide eyes, then let out a small, satisfied sound. Tuna leaned her head against Alex's shoulder and whispered, It looks like the one from when I was little. Alex wrapped an arm around her and held her close. The morning's regret had dissolved into quiet, wordless joy. The garden wasn't empty anymore. It was ready for life to arrive. By early afternoon, the pens were finished. The chicken coop stood neatly at the edge of the garden, its roof sloping just enough to shed rain, the door freshly painted and drying in the sun. Behind it, the pig pen looked sturdy and clean, reinforced at the corners the way Alex insisted, with a feeding trough placed where it would be easy to refill. The yard still smelled like new wood and damp soil, but now it held structure, purpose, something that felt like memory made real. Tuna stepped back and stared at what they'd built. Her hands were smudged with paint, her hair slightly messy, and sweat clung lightly to her neck, but her face glowed. We actually did it, she said, half laughing. Alex wiped sweat from his brow with the back of his hand. We did, he replied, and his voice carried the same quiet pride he usually reserved for business victories. Only this time, it was warmer, more personal. They sat on the flat stone again, catching their breath. Henry lay nearby on the grass blanket, eyes wide and curious, following every movement. Tuna had hung small wooden animal ornaments above the pens, tiny shapes that swayed gently when the breeze passed. Henry stared at them like they were magic. Tuna watched him and smiled. He likes it, she whispered. Alex leaned in. He's already approving the farm lifestyle, he teased softly. Tuna bumped his shoulder. Don't act like you're not enjoying it. Alex shrugged, then admitted quietly, I am. I like seeing you like this. Tuna blinked, emotion rising again. But before she could say anything, the sound of a truck engine approached from the dirt road outside the gate. Both of them turned. A small truck pulled up and stopped, dust lifting behind its wheels. From the back came sharp clucks, feather rustling, and then the softer, deeper sounds of piglets, little grunts and snorts that made Tuna's heart jump. The driver hopped down and called out, Delivery. Tuna stood quickly, fingers trembling. They're here, she whispered, almost like she couldn't believe it. Alex reached down and lifted Henry onto his shoulder so the baby could see. Come on, he said gently. Let's welcome them home. Tuna walked to the chicken coop first. She unlatched the door slowly, like it was something sacred. The driver handed her the hens one by one, and Tuna knelt down, carefully placing each warm, feathered body inside. The hens hesitated at first, shifting their feet and blinking like they didn't trust this new world. Then one took a step. Another followed. A few began pecking at the ground immediately, testing the soil, fluttering their wings in short bursts. Tuna's lips parted in a quiet, amazed smile. The sound real clucks, real movement filled the space that had felt empty that morning. Alex stood close, Henry perched high on his shoulder. He spoke softly to the baby. Look, little one, this is their new home. Henry responded with a small, excited coo and grabbed at Alex's shirt collar, eyes locked on the chickens moving around. Tuna moved to the pig pen next. Her hands trembled as she swung the gate open. The piglets trotted in eagerly, snouts low, sniffing fresh wood and dry hay. They moved with bold curiosity, little bodies bumping into each other, then into the trough. Tuna scattered feed, then reached out and laid her palm gently on a piglet's back. The warmth traveled up her arm like a memory waking up. Her eyes filled, and she didn't even try to stop the tears this time. It's finally here, she whispered, voice breaking. Alex set Henry safely back onto the blanket, then stepped behind Tuna and wrapped his arms around her waist. They stood still, watching the garden come alive. A hesitant rooster crow sounded from somewhere in the distance, maybe a neighbor's, maybe one of theirs finding its voice. Piglets nudged the trough. Chickens scratched the soil. It wasn't loud like a celebration. It was gentle, natural, living, and that was exactly what Tuna had missed. Alex tightened his hold slightly. He didn't say much. He didn't need to. His presence was the answer. We did this together. As late afternoon faded into evening, the light turned warm gold and then orange. Tuna filled a bucket with grain and scattered it in wide arcs. The hens swarmed her feet, clucking and flapping. One bold hen hopped onto her arm and pecked directly from her palm. Tuna laughed out loud, bright, surprised laughter that felt like it came from a younger version of herself. Alex glanced over. You've been chosen, he joked. Tuna shook her head. This one has no shame. Alex crouched by the pig pen, offering fresh grass to the piglets, speaking softly as if they could understand him. Eat slowly, don't fight. There's enough for everyone. Henry lay on his back, legs kicking, eyes fixed on the pigs chewing. Every time a piglet made a sudden movement, Henry's eyes widened and he let out a delighted little sound. Tuna walked over and sat beside Alex, resting her head briefly on his shoulder. See, she said softly, everything's coming alive. Alex nodded, fingers threading gently through her hair. Yeah, he murmured, and so are we. They finished feeding together, hands brushing, their movements naturally in sync. There was no rush, no pressure, just care. By the time the sun slipped behind the horizon, the garden no longer felt like empty land. It felt like home. Night arrived slowly, the sky turning from orange to deep violet. Tiny stars appeared one by one. Lanterns strung along the wooden fence cast a warm glow over the yard, and Tuna set a simple table right in the middle of the garden, as if she wanted to celebrate the life they'd brought back. She spread a white cloth and placed steaming dishes down. White rice, boiled greens, braised pork, humble food, heavy with the scent of home. The sounds around them were softer now. Chickens quiet in their coop, only the occasional sleepy cluck. Piglets curled close in their corner, breathing slow and even, like a lullaby. Alex carried Henry in his arms and set him gently into a small wooden cradle beside the table. The baby stirred, then calmed, eyes half closed, comforted by the closeness of his parents. Alex sat beside Tuna, and for a moment, neither of them picked up their chopsticks. Tuna looked around the garden, listening. Crickets sang. A breeze moved through leaves. The pen stood solid, full of life. The emptiness she'd felt that morning was gone. Tuna reached under the table and laced her fingers with Alex's. "Thank you," she whispered, "for doing this with me, for bringing it back." Alex squeezed her hand, lantern light reflected in his eyes. "You don't have to thank me," he said quietly. "This is our home." Henry made a soft sound from the cradle, as if agreeing. They began to eat, bite by bite, sharing small stories between mouthfuls, Tuna's childhood mornings, Henry's funny habits, Alex's clumsy first day feeding chickens. Laughter rose gently, mixed with the whisper of wind and the chirp of insects. In that moment, every regret dissolved completely, not because the past was erased, but because the present was full. Full of sounds, of warmth, of togetherness. Tuna looked at Henry, then at Alex, and felt a deep certainty settle in her chest. This was the life she wanted her son to grow up in. Morning roosters, fresh grass, strong arms around her when fear tried to return. Love that showed up in action. The meal wasn't just dinner. It was their quiet declaration spoken without speeches that together they had built a place worth returning to, again and again. Tuna wakes in the new house to warm sunlight, yet the garden outside feels silent. Memories of her childhood farm roosters, hens, and piglets return and leave her, aching to restore that living rhythm. She finds Alex rocking Henry and admits the space feels empty without a chicken coop and pig pen. Alex listens, takes her hand, and agrees to rebuild everything that day. Together they measure boards, hammer frames, paint doors, and laugh through the work while Henry watches from a blanket. By afternoon, the pens stand finished, and a small truck arrives with hens and piglets. Tuna places them gently inside, tears falling as the yard fills with clucks and snorts again. At sunset, they feed the animals side by side, then share a simple lantern-lit dinner in the garden, grateful for a home that feels alive.